Hi there, I'm Kevin Sizemore.
And I'm Gunnar Sizemore. And today we have 3 incredible stories about people helping each other.
And being helped in surprising ways.
So join us for The Miracle Show.
At the height of the coronavirus pandemic, people were advised to stay at home and small businesses suffered.
However, in Racine, Wisconsin, one man found a way to help them out, with the simple idea that galvanized his community. So now let's go to Racine to meet soccer coach Stan Anderson.
Hey Stan.
What's up, Kevin? How are you?
Doing great, Stan. Now, as a coach, I imagine you spend a lot of time in restaurants.
I have spent plenty of time in restaurants, that's for sure. That is for sure. Nationwide and worldwide.
And Stan, what do you think it is about restaurants in particular that helps bring a community together?
You go to a restaurant, and that's a place where people meet and connect and share and see other people and create memories and all those sorts of things at a restaurant.
And what happened to restaurants in your area once the lockdown began?
There were 3 restaurants gone in the space of a couple months. And it was because of the pandemic. It wasn't for any other reason than the pandemic. It wasn't their fault, you know? We were losing them at a rapid pace.
And you decided to support your local restaurants, not just by dining there, but by raising money to give to them.
I got the idea to do it back in September of 20, when it was literally going to be a night out with me, my wife, our family. And we raised some money, and we raised the money just through my social media. And that's really where it all started.
And that went over so well that you decided to do that with other restaurants?
23 different restaurants, and 21 of them had been Racine.
Well, among the places you surprised the gift with was Bernie's Pizza. And, well, we actually have a video right here.
We've been going around from restaurant to restaurant, a few restaurants, and we're trying to make things easier on people.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So I didn't know if maybe a couple $100 would help.
You want me to give you 200?
No. I've got some here to help you. Maybe you can move around a little bit, Tank, as well. But how about this? How about there's 100, there's 200, there's 300, there's 400.
No.
There's 500, there's 600.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going down.
I don't even know where I was counting anymore. But let's say that was 800, that's 900, that's 1,000. Okay? That's 1,100, maybe that's 1,150, but sir,
You're doing it for us?
I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you.
Thank you.
You got great people that love you, and you do great work.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, Bernie, there's $2,500.
Oh, no.
Okay? All right?
Wow, that was great.
And joining us today is Bernie Willing from Bernie's Pizza with his son, Bernie Jr. So, how long have you been in business in Racine?
Bernie Pizzeria, I've been in business for 14 years, and I've been in the business myself for 60 years. I've been in Racine all my life.
And I've been in Racine my whole life too. I'm 48 and he's 73.
And once the shutdown started during the pandemic, how did that affect your business?
Before the pandemic, we had a strong customer base, nice and steady, even flow every year, sales-wise. As soon as the pandemic hit, we lost about 2/3 of our dine-in customers. We gained about 1/3 of our to-go customers. So it kind of picked us up a little bit. More to-go, less dine-in. Customers are, a little weary, scared to come out and be close to each other, and that they don't know how you're running your business and if you're taking the safety precautions that are needed.
Did you have to lay people off to stay afloat?
So when the pandemic hit, we had to lay people off, and then we got our PPP loan, the payroll protection plan, and then we were able to hire back all of our employees, and we've kept them since then.
Tell us about that night that Stan came in and surprised you.
I was just working and I heard a man came in and he wanted to see me. And when I walked out here, he started placing the money down, and I didn't think about the money I thought about the man who had a heart to walk in my restaurant and give me money to keep my business going.
We didn't have any knowledge of, someone like Stan doing what he was doing for local businesses until he walked in our door.
What did it mean for you guys to have someone just give you $2,500?
Well, I knew that it could give us a little bit more breathing room with some food bills that, have backed up, and kind of take the relief off a little bit, the pressure.
It's hard to expect what to say to a man who had a heart. He's a great man, and I'll never forget Dan Anderson.
And Stan, watching that video, it looks like when you came in, Bernie thought you were there for another reason.
He thought we were asking for money, and he would have given it in a pandemic to somebody he didn't know. I kid you not, he would have done that. And the reality was we were there to give him $2,500.
So, how much money have you distributed so far?
$58,000. And it's daunting when we think about the 500. That was the first night, was 500. And to think 58,000 now, that's a considerable increase from what we originally planned.
That's incredible, man. And how does that make you feel when you're counting out all that money to restaurant owners?
It makes you feel fantastic. Smart enough to realize that the community is behind this, and I give massive, massive credit to the city of Racine and anybody else that's contributed.
Has doing this made you more aware of how important it is to support local businesses?
I've really, really understood at a micro level the need, in my words, the need to buy local, because there are people's livelihoods that depend on this. And the reality is we've also had some quality response from the bigger companies, if you will. SC Johnson is a Fortune 500 company, and they contributed $5,000 to their restaurant owner that's a tenant in their building.
And for the people watching at home, can they do this in their own communities?
Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. I'm just a pass-through. I've just organized a way for it to happen, and people have rallied behind it. Anybody can get this done. Anybody can, and that's honestly would be the number one thing that I would want out of this for other people watching. If they're inspired to be a difference, then be a difference. Just get it done. Don't sit and wait for something. Just do it.
There it is, spoken like a true coach. Thanks for being on the show, Stan.
See you, Kevin.
And thank you, Bernie and Bernie.
Bye, Gunner.
Bye, Gunner.
Ooh, now I'm craving some pizza.
Me too.
Sometimes accidents occur in an instant, which changes our lives and the lives of our loved ones forever.
And at times like those, we are called upon to give of ourselves in ways that we never imagined.
That was the case with Meredith Alexander and her daughter Schuyler, and they're joining us now from Florida. Hey, Meredith.
Hi, Schuyler. Thank you both for joining us.
I want to thank you for inviting us.
So, to begin, let's go back a few years to 2016. Schuyler, what was your life like at that time?
I love to travel. I went to 5 out of the 7 continents. I had just graduated from Yale, and I was very interested in social enterprise. And I had danced for ever since I was 5. So I was a very active person too.
And Meredith, what was your life, 5 years ago?
I was just like any given single mom, entrepreneur, and Schuyler was traveling the world, literally. Just about every month it felt like she was in some exotic location around the globe.
So, Schuyler, you graduated from Yale in 2015, and the next year you're on a post-grad fellowship to Peru to build schools and work with the indigenous people. And what happened then?
So the first weekend in Peru, I didn't know anyone, and I signed up to go on a camping trip, which was crazy because it's 14,000 elevation just above where we are just starting. So at the climbing, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Because normally you're supposed to take a couple days to adapt. But I just went straight into the hike, and I just went straight into hiking, which was not smart.
I want to hop in and say that Schuyler is definitely the daredevil in the family. She was the one who would, if I asked her what she was going to be doing that day, oh, we're going to be rappelling down a waterfall that is treacherous. So she was absolutely fearless. Fearless.
And Schuyler, it was with that fearless spirit that you signed up to go rafting in a remote part of Colombia. Tell us about that.
I was whitewater rafting, and we got the treacherous part, and we stopped to swim in a grotto, which meant we took our helmets off, and there was a cliff we could jump off of into the water, but in order to get up there, you had to climb single file up. So I jumped, and we think the second time we went up, the person in front of me just launched a boulder, and it fell and hit me in the head and knocked me off. So I broke both scapulas, my spine, got a traumatic brain injury, my lungs were filled with blood. I fractured my right femur and pulverized my left ankle.
That's horrible, Meredith. And with Schuyler so far away, how did you first know something was wrong?
February 19th, 2016 started out like a normal working Friday for me in the middle of my busy season. And ironically enough, at about 11 or 12 a.m., for no reason, I started feeling absolutely exhausted. And so I tried to fight that off. I threw water in my face, but I just kept yawning, and it was as if my body was pulling me to go to sleep. So I went into the bedroom, set the alarm, put an eye mask on, and I thought, okay, 15 minutes, and then I'm back up and back at it. That was around noon. At 3 p.m., my eyes popped open. I don't know what happened with the alarm, but I bolted up. I looked at the clock. I was horrified, ran downstairs to walk the dogs, get a glass of water, and the phone rang. And it was an international number. I almost didn't pick it up. And this little voice on the other end of the line asked first if it was me. And when I said yes, she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but Schuyler's been in a terrible accident. The doctors are working on her right now. We've got to get you down to Colombia right away. And as we kept having this conversation, I finally had the courage to say, is there a chance that she's not going to make it? And that silence for a moment at the end of the line, I will always remember. And then she just said, well, the doctors are in with her right now. We just have to get you down here as soon as possible. And I hung up the phone and collapsed on the floor. And so the whole whirlwind began. What moments before had been complete calm was now total chaos, and trying to figure it out along the way.
Wow, how challenging was it for you to get on a plane to Colombia in such short notice?
The entire trip to Colombia was an adventure that started right in Tampa. we got to the ticket counter with our carry-on luggage. We had no checked luggage. And the American Airlines representative said, "I'm sorry, we can't sell you a ticket. It's our company policy that if it's less than an hour from departure, we cannot sell you a ticket." We had to drive to Miami. So we had a 4.5-hour drive to the Miami airport. And so my other daughter and I get on this plane, and as we were zooming there, in the darkness, I realized that I may not be able to control the outer game, but I sure as heck could play a mean inner game. I had to get a place where my expectation was that other people had seen miracles. Why not us? Why not us? So the first question I asked myself was, had anyone ever achieved something that other people said was impossible? And of course, clearly the answer was yes, because I was flying through the sky in one of those impossibilities.
Can you describe what it was like when you arrived in Colombia and saw your daughter for the first time?
So when I got to that hospital, I was a force to be reckoned with. I was not a second victim of this boulder. I was there to guide the team, right? I was there to guide anyone and everyone who might be thinking of Schuyler, to not think of her as someone who is not going to make this, but to remember how formidable she was, what an incredible energy she is.
And you still held on to hope even after you saw the x-rays of her skull?
When we first were shown the x-ray of her skull, it was crazy because it looked like I was seeing something that would be in the Museum of Natural History somewhere. It was devastated.
And yet, from almost the time you arrived, there seemed to be miracles occurring.
The first miracle had already occurred, and this was that in Colombia, South America, very few of the hospitals even have an ICU, much less a team that would have been capable of working on her level of injuries. However, not too far. Now, mind you, it took an hour for them to get her from where this accident occurred to this ICU. But there happened to be an ICU there. Also, in that town, the former retired lead surgeon of neurosurgery at the University of Bogota, he had retired to this little town because of the number of motorcycle accidents there. So he was available to work on Schuyler and had been working on Schuyler. So that was miracle number one.
And finally, you're there in Colombia with your daughter. She's in bed, the curtains pulled back. What did you see?
She did not look like the young woman that I had seen only a few weeks earlier at Christmas holidays. They had shaved all of her hair off. She had a bandage all over her. And yet, to me, my first impression, because of where I had worked so hard to get my thoughts, she looked like this beautiful hybrid between a China doll and Mother Teresa. And the bandages seemed to form a little heart in the middle of her head. And so it was a shocking moment to see her, but it was not a moment that felt like it was breaking me. I knew that we were going to make it through this. I just knew it.
So from that point on, you refused to entertain any thoughts that you might lose Schuyler.
When I was talking to the doctors in Colombia and they were trying to express the severity of what we were facing, it was apparently, because her skull had been cracked open and the brain had been exposed, typically that was the kiss of death. No one expected her to make it, but if she should make it, because of the location of the devastation, you could see from the x-rays that she surely would be blind. And so I was still, at this point, I was focused that she was going to make it and everything would be fine, whatever that meant. There were so many people who were in terror that she was not going to survive. And I believe, from what I had studied, that if they were focused on her not making it, then they were feeding that energy. So that is where I really began on the Facebook posts, believe it or not, because that was the only way to reach people. So we created our page, Sky is the Limit, spelled like her name, SCHUY. And I would put out there these posts that were not, oh my gosh, pray for Schuyler. It was, no, if you want to support Schuyler, if you want to support us, then you go out and you find a way to be that epic version of yourself. You go out there, smile at people in the elevators, live your dreams, be joyful, and that is how, live the essence of Schuyler, right? And so it went very quickly from 100 people reading the post to them sharing the post, and all of a sudden there were thousands of people who didn't know me, didn't know Schuyler, who were messaging me and telling me that our story, Schuyler's courage and my vision had changed their lives. And that's when I started to really believe that there was some purpose behind all this.
So, Schuyler, during all of this, you were in a medically induced coma. What's the first thing you remember after you woke up?
The accident happened on a Friday, and I was airlifted to Miami the Monday afterwards. And my eyes were taped shut and my mouth was wired shut. So I just squeezed my mom's hand to let her know I was awake. So that's my first memory.
And Schuyler, you were having to learn the very basic things of existence all over again. What was that like?
My circumstances have changed a ton because you don't realize how many things you do standing up until you can't stand. So even like brushing your teeth and stuff, you do standing. But that's how I figured out and then taught. There are multiple ways to do everything. But I've learned to appreciate little things and the people, because after the accident, you realize how important people are.
I had no full appreciation of what an impact Sky had made in just 22 years, really until after the accident, because so many of her friends reached out to me and said, I want to visit, I want to come to Miami. And I was shocked because every single one of them had this same story of Schuyler changed my life.
Schuyler, you have not stopped smiling since we began this interview. Now, given what you've been through, how do you stay so upbeat and positive?
I'm able to maintain a positive attitude by looking at little victories. Little victories are still victories, are still steps forward.
What's left on your travel bucket list? Where do you want to go next?
I've always wanted to go to more of Southeast Asia. I've been to Bali and Nepal, but I want to travel around. I heard Vietnam's really pretty. I want to go there. I also want to go to Morocco. I think that'd be cool.
So Meredith, seeing how far Schuyler's already come, I'm sure you see her living independently, right?
The future going forward for Schuyler is really, in the word, unstoppable. I know that Sky will, sooner rather than later, be sharing her message, making that even bigger thumbprint, that legacy on the world, and helping other people to realize that even when these frickin' boulders fall, that they do not come to destroy us. They don't come to destroy our big dreams, our plans. They come to destroy the things that we have been allowing to hold ourselves back.
And Meredith, why do you believe it's so important to make the effort you're making to share Schuyler's story?
My big hope is that by hearing our story, is that anyone who hears it will have the courage to believe that it's not in spite of these boulders that we achieve amazing things, but that it's that bolder version of ourselves that help us create that epicness that was inspired by these awful boulders in our life.
Wow, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And now for another story about some amazing things is, well, it's kind of a well of a tale.
And joining us from the Center for Cetacean Research and Conservation in Brunswick, Maine, is Nan Hauser.
Hey Kevin, hey Gunnar, it's really great to meet you.
Great to meet you, Nan.
You know, Nan, I'm just beginning to look into career options for myself, and I'm curious, how did you come to do what you do? Did you always have an interest in wildlife?
My family was from Europe and had immigrated to the US, and we grew up on a Quaker wildlife preserve in the mountains of Pennsylvania. We had all kinds of animals just with us all the time. Bears and deer and raccoon and skunk and fox, and my grandmother was a true lover of nature. We built a nature center there, and she built nature trails through the woods and everything. And so we would put honey on the trees and then wait for the bears to come, and they would climb the trees and lick the honey off right next to us. We'd be inside though.
And what then drew you to oceanography?
The first thing that drew me to the ocean was when I was a child, we spent lots of time in Bermuda, and it was beautiful, and I would see the whales go by. I would see their blows, and I always wondered what happened in between those blows. What were they doing underwater?
So you went from raccoons and bears to being a whale biologist?
I took a pretty circuitous route on becoming a whale biologist. I wanted to be someone who studied dolphins, but when I graduated from high school, I studied art and got a degree in art, and then nursing and another degree in nursing, and had kids and became a ship captain and a polarity therapist and all kinds of things. And then when I had my third child, after she was born, I thought, I'm doing this. You've got to live out your dream. You've got to find your mission and your purpose. And I'd had a lot of purposes, but now I was going to focus on taking my knowledge of medicine and become a critical care and emergency medical person for whales and dolphins. And then I started getting hired by different film companies to make films. And then I started filming and seeing behavior that no one had seen before, which was fantastic. Then I started writing it up scientifically, and then one thing led to another, and everyone said, you know, you're doing it, why don't you get your PhD? And things just sort of unfolded.
See, what I'll tell you, man, all you got to do is just follow your dream.
And following your dream led you to eventually not only having a research center in Maine, but one that's on an island in the Pacific Ocean near halfway between Australia and South America.
I was sent out to Rarotonga and Palmerston Atoll in the Cook Islands in 1998, and I expected to spend a month or two, and it's been, well, this is my 24th year of being there, so I fell in love with the people and the culture and the whales.
And Rarotonga is on the whales' migration path or something.
The whales migrate from Antarctica, where they feed for about 4 to 6 months. They migrate all the way up to Oceania. And we're more of a corridor than a true breeding ground in the Cook Islands. They pass through, so they don't stay long. They might stay a day or a few days or a week, maybe 10 days at the most. And then they go to the west and they go through Oceania before they go back down to Antarctica. And it's a cycle that's necessary in their existence and their survival because they come to the warmer waters to mate and give birth.
Do we know how far one whale can travel in its lifetime?
We say that a humpback travels to the moon and back at least once and maybe twice in its lifetime.
And after all the years you've spent studying them, do you have a favorite species of whales?
I say all species of whales, and I like that. But I do spend probably more with humpbacks than other species of whales, more time.
And speaking of humpbacks, there was one in particular that you had an amazing encounter with. Can you tell us what happened there?
I had the most outrageous encounter, and I've always had outrageous encounters, but nothing compared to this one. We were making a film, and the director said, "We need more footage of you underwater." And so I said, "Great, there are a couple whales right there," and slid over the side and had my GoPro, and I swam a little bit and then stopped so that they could approach me. But one of them, he approached me, but he didn't stop. And so I put my hand out, and he literally just kept coming. I don't touch the animals that I study, but he was pushing me, and I wasn't about to win pushing 50,000 pounds away from me, so I was pushing myself away from him. But he just kept persisting, and he put me on his head, and I was sitting on his head, and then he put me on his chin, he flipped over, and he kept trying to tuck me under his pectoral fin. Well, I just had a snorkel and mask on. I was freediving, so I didn't really want that to happen or I would drown. And he just, no matter how much I tried to get away from him, he was persistent. And I slid down his back, I slid off his tail, and then I thought, oh, I'm free. But then he'd come right back again, he put me back on his head. And every time he tried to tuck me under his pectoral fin, I would seriously just hold on to it so that I wouldn't get stuck under there. And it was very powerful. And at one point, he just lifted me up on his pectoral fin right out of the water. And I screamed to everyone on my boat, "Please, somebody come help me." And then right back down underwater again. And I wasn't laughing at the time. I do know that you cannot show fear around animals. It's just not something you do. And despite my fear, I didn't show it, and I didn't ever panic. I just thought, okay, I'm going to get out of this, or I'm going to be dead. And I always thought that I would die with a whale, so I kind of accepted that. But then I started thinking about all my grandchildren, and I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to have them grow up without me. And so I just decided I was going to go with the flow and get away from him. But 10.5 minutes later, that's a long 10.5 minutes, it was like hours, I finally got away from him enough to look over and see the other whale that was there, and she was busy swishing her tail around and slapping it to get rid of this shark, or to keep it away. But the shark kept swimming towards me at that point, very rapidly, with its pec fins down and arching its body. Its tail was going like this. Whales go like this. So I immediately recognized it as, well, that's not true. I first thought it was a whale, I have to admit. I think I was in some state of shock. So it was just a smaller whale, but then when it started coming towards me, I recognized it as a tiger shark. And again, I yelled at the surface, "There's a great big tiger shark right there." And they were like, "Well, then get out of the water." And the whale just came and took me with his head and just pushed me to the boat, where I jumped on the back of it.
And how did the other people on the boat react?
So when I got up to the back of the boat, my research assistant, Alyssa, said, "Nan, the whale." And the whale was right next to the boat. The back of it curved around. And I sat there and said, thank you, I love you. And they were just speechless. I mean, first thing they did was all put their arms around me, and then they wanted to get me on film talking about it. And I think their emotions were pretty wild too. They just couldn't believe what happened. And that's when I started saying to Alyssa, I'm just realizing this whole altruistic behavior this whale did. This shark is there, and the whale felt like he needed to protect me, and started to put the puzzle together and thinking, seriously, was this a display of altruistic behavior? And did they know exactly what was going on and that I was in danger? And yeah, it's quite interesting.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Looking back at the footage, it's pretty obvious you're being filmed by someone else in the water at the same time.
There was a cameraman there because they were making this film. It was Nature Conservation Films. And he'd never been in the water with a whale. He filmed deer in the Netherlands. And he got in the water and he started to film, and he got out. I'm not sure if something went wrong with the camera or whether he was nervous or whatever, but he did end up getting back in again, although I never saw him because I never took my eyes off the whale. Never. And I'm glad he got back in and we wouldn't have footage of me with the whale. He just thought, wow, she's got an incredible relationship. She must know this whale. And this is really cool that whales do this. Of course, they don't do this.
Well, I mean, okay, the shark and the whale, that's an incredible story.
But it didn't end there, did it?
The whole encounter actually was so shocking to me. It really, I was trying to comprehend it and make sense of it being a scientist, and that was difficult. And then 4 days later, we're out on the boat, and there's a couple whales come up next to the boat, and they're spy hopping. They're coming just right up out of the water and going back down again, and then up out of the water. And one of them disappeared, but the other one stayed. I could practically reach it. I mean, it was right there. I recognized her as the whale that was in the first encounter, that was trying to keep the shark away from me.
Oh, so not the one who pushed you to the boat, but the other one who was blocking the shark.
I figured, well, she wants me to be in the water, and you know, it's against the law actually to be in the water with whales in many places, but I have a permit because I'm a research biologist to do this. So I slid over the side of the boat, and she dove, and I laid at the water, and then I looked down, and she's coming up towards me from the deep, deep blue. She's literally coming up, and her pec fins are out, and they're huge. You know, I'm 1/3 the size of their pectoral fin. She's coming up like this, and she comes up right next to me, and it's like she's giving me a hug. It's my birthday. I'm not scared at all, and I cannot believe she's doing this. She goes down a little bit, and then she comes back up around again, and she's literally this far away from me. So on my camera, all I see are her throat pleats, you know, the grooves in her chest. And then she turns around and looks at me from the back of her head this way. And she keeps staring at me, and then she comes around like this again, and she takes her pec fin and she literally touches my hand with it. And then she kind of lays on her back, and I'm right next to her, and they're flipping out on the boat, but I'm not. I'm just thinking, I'm just feeling this true unconditional love. I mean, it was incredible. And lo and behold, she just stuck with us. I got back in the boat, and she stayed with us for a couple of hours. She was leaving the island, and we went along with her, and she was breaching and going into the boat and sort of playing with us. And so that was another encounter that totally threw me for a loop. I'm trying to comprehend these animals, but the cognitive behavior, that's a whole new ball game.
And still, that's not all. I heard there was another incident after that.
So you wouldn't think anything could possibly happen after those two encounters. And it was exactly 1 year and 15 days later. I'm out on the boat with a new team, and we're down off the south side when a fisherman calls and says there's a whale off the harbor. We shoot up, and the whale dives, and I look at his tail, and his tail fluke has these two deep notches, one on each side, and I think, that's weird, because that whale that pushed me from the shark had those. And suddenly he's by the boat, and he's, again, he's sort of laying on his side right in front of me, looking at me, and I'm going, what? And then I see this mark on his head that I recognize, and I just scream, he's back! This animal is back! And I slide over the side, and we have a reunion. I go up and I'm rubbing his face, and he's nudging me through the water. I'm getting all this nuzzling, and he's huge. And I don't even know what to hold on to. I want to hug him. So I'm holding on to, his face, which is pretty hard to hang on to. There are tubercles on his face and hanging on to it. And then he just puts his pec fin right underneath me, and I'm lying on his pec fin, hugging him. And of course, I'm crying and my mask is filling with tears because I can't believe he's back, and I can't believe we're having a reunion, that he recognized me and I recognized him. And it was one of those speechless encounters. We spent some time together in the water. Everyone on my boat was just absolutely shocked. And the whale and I swam back, and I sat on the back of the boat with my feet in the water, and he just hung there for about 20 minutes. And then we went in, he swam away, and I never saw him again.
So when those events happened, did you really feel there was some kind of communication going on between you and the whales?
I think there's an intuitive thing going on. They can definitely feel what you're doing there and who you are and if you're safe. And when I'm in the water filming, I just think unconditional love. Practice this unconditional love. Clear your mind and let the animal come to you. It's just the way I communicate with them. And I guess we're sending messages back and forth. And they're certainly nonverbal, but it's all part of the thought process.
Wow, that's amazing. But even if there's communication, how can you be sure those whales recognized you?
I can't say for sure because it's really hard to prove, but he certainly ignored everybody else. And there was even a research assistant who got in the water and he totally ignored her. So he was, again, intent on paying attention to me, and he seemed to trust me and know who I was, and I certainly trusted him this time.
After the encounters, have you given the whale a name?
No, we haven't given him a name on purpose because we're going to auction off his name. Yeah, we're dying to give him a really beautiful name. I'm sure he already has a name, being a whale, a name that we can't pronounce. It's probably or something like that. Yeah, but anyway, we're very excited that we're going to be able to give him a name, or someone out there in the world is going to give him a name.
So these things happened quite some time ago before you were comfortable speaking about them in public. Why did you keep it quiet?
I was afraid that I was going to get totally mocked and ripped apart by telling the story. But then when COVID hit and I saw the world with so much sadness and depression and horrible news stories, and I decided that it was time to really show the world how amazing these animals are.
And they kind of had a break, right? Since the pandemic happened, the whales had about a year with no traffic on the ocean.
I feel that maybe COVID is a chance for us to push a reset button on nature. And I want people to know how incredible whales are, and the ocean is, and life is, and nature is. I mean, all of it. And whales are so important for the ocean. And, without us taking care of the ocean, we're not going to make it. We need oxygen to breathe. It's that simple. And whales help create that oxygen.
So before we let you go, is there anything our viewers can do to help preserve whales as a species?
It's really important that everyone join forces right now. Learn about whales. Learn about how awesome they are. They are mysterious animals. We need to protect them. We put people out there in space to look for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it's right here in our backyard. And not only is it here, but we're making them sick and we're killing them. And so everybody, be aware how important whales are to our own existence, and learn about the nets they drown in, learn about the polluted fish they eat that affects their whole immunity and their behavior and their health. I mean, we have whales dying on shores because we're stubborn about what we do, and we need to change the way we are. And we all need to do it. It's not just a handful of green people that need to do it. We need to change our habits. You have a voice. We all have a voice. Please use your voice, and please join hands in doing it with all of us, no matter who you are or what you do. It's important for the survival of the planet, and it's important for the survival of us human beings.
Now, some might say it takes miracles to make things happen, but I know you're a scientist. Do you believe in miracles?
Do I believe in miracles? I certainly do. Of course I believe in miracles. I mean, that's what life's about. I guess that in some really obvious ways, this was a miracle. That the whale was there, that particular whale was there, that both of them were there, that he pushed me back to the boat. And I hadn't seen this shark, but everybody on my boat had seen this shark before from the boat, like the day before. I was busy doing something and I hadn't even thought about it. So the whole thing was just miraculous in the way that they behaved towards me, and that he came back. I mean, I could really get into how that's a miracle, because in 23 years, he's only the third whale that's ever come back. And every single whale that we've satellite tagged and watched has gone from east to west. We don't have whales that come from west to east, but this guy did. That's a miracle. I believe in miracles.
Nan, this has really been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Gunnar. It's been a real pleasure being with you today.
So there you have it, 3 stories of altruism. You got a man helping out his community, a mother helping her daughter, and, well, you got a whale helping out an oceanographer.
Thanks for tuning in this week on The Miracle Show.